I am Lyall Swim, and I'm excited to welcome you to the 2020 John Blundell Elevator Pitch Competition. All of the participants that you'll see today recently finished the Leader Lab program here in Virginia back in October, and as part of that, got to participate in this program. Now, under normal circumstances, this year's group would have representatives from our partners from all over the globe. Obviously, due to the pandemic and COVID, we were only able to have US-based participants attend. For those of you that are new to this competition, participants were challenged to give their best elevator pitch, succinctly conveying the value proposition of their work as they might communicate it to a potential supporter or someone who's interested, but to do it in less than 60 seconds, and they need to do it in front of a set of judges. From that initial set of 25 participants that came to Leader Lab back in October, 9 were selected, and you'll get to hear their pitches in just a minute. At the end of the pitches, you, the audience, will get to vote on the best elevator pitch. So pay attention, take notes, and cast your vote when the time comes. For today's competition, we will award prizes to our top 3 participants. The third place participant will receive $500 in a grant for their organization. Second place receives $1,000, and the grand prize winner will take home $1,500 for their organization. So, without further ado, let's get started. First up, we have Annie Elliott of the Texas Public Policy Foundation. Annie?
Many people think that Texas is the beacon of liberty for the entire nation. But what a lot of people don't realize is that Texans still face oppressive government overreach every day. That's why the Texas Public Policy Foundation is here to help. Through our research on a variety of policy topics, like taxation, education, and criminal justice reform, we're able to develop policy solutions and share those solutions with legislators so that they can help keep Texas free. We think of ourselves as the cheerful warriors fighting on behalf of all Texans to preserve liberty in the Lone Star State. But we can't do this work alone. To continue our research, legislative engagement, and public outreach efforts, we need more supporters like you to join our cause. So if you care about freedom and you care about Texas, then I invite you to join us by making a gift to the Texas Public Policy Foundation today.
Thanks, Annie. Next up, we have Chris Denson from the Georgia Public Policy Foundation.
A friend of mine approached me recently and said this pandemic has shown how much their kids are falling behind in school thanks to the rigidity of their local school system and virtual learning. However, this pandemic has presented an opportunity for money to actually follow a child's education rather than a building or an administrator. Unfortunately, too many parents in Georgia are feeling this way, but there is something we can do to help, and the Georgia Public Policy Foundation is leading the way. As part of the CARES Act, the state of Georgia received over $400 million to assist with education any way the governor sees fit. For the over 1.7 million K-12 public school students in Georgia, that represents $240 per student. Now, you might think that doesn't sound like much, but it can go towards laptops or other electronic learning materials, or parents could even pull that money together for tutors. So my call to action today is, go to the Foundation's Facebook page, share with us your story of how your local school district could be doing more to help your child. Help us mobilize a grassroots effort today to ensure that money is following your child, even if their school doors aren't open.
Thank you, Chris. Our next contestant is Devin Scanlon from the Mercatus Center at George Mason University.
For 40 years, the Mercatus Center has produced market-based student programming and policy research with a proven track record, breaking down the barriers that prevent people from living free, prosperous, and peaceful lives. Today, though, socialism and populism are on the rise. Colleges and legislatures around the globe are increasingly hostile to the ideals of a free and open society. Our mission is more important than ever. Consequently, Mercatus has built a powerful network of over 200 vision-aligned university centers, spanning 41 states and 8 countries. Together, as a network, we are combating these growing threats to liberty, changing the minds of policymakers today, and educating students for the next generation. Join us to strengthen this international effort. Your financial support will not only go to change laws now, but will also secure liberty well into the future.
Our fourth contestant is also from the Texas Public Policy Foundation, Graeme Taylor.
America is the last best hope for the world, but America is in trouble. Americans have increasingly come to abhor the very principles that made us great: liberty, personal responsibility, and free enterprise. But these principles are alive and well in the Lone Star State thanks to the work of the Texas Public Policy Foundation. John Adams said that the real revolution was in the minds of the American people, and at TPPF, we recognize that a second revolution of thought is needed to return our country to its founding principles and greatness. Like the men of the Alamo, TPPF is prepared to stand and fight for liberty, for as America is the last best hope for the world, Texas is the last best hope for America, and TPPF is the last best hope for Texas. With our diverse policy agenda, we have the intellectual ammo to win this war of the minds, but we cannot win it alone. When the call for liberty is rung, we will stand and fight. Will you stand with us?
Thanks, Graeme. Next up is Joe Luppino-Esposito of the Pacific Legal Foundation.
We've heard all the stories. The salon owner who can't open her business, the church doors that must remain shut. The COVID-19 pandemic has exposed millions of Americans. It's exposed them to their governor's unconstitutional emergency orders, which, in effect, allow the governor to pass law unilaterally. Now look, limited emergency powers are appropriate for a sudden crisis, but now we're in the middle of a health emergency that has gone on for months, and there is no end in sight for these governors and their quasi-laws that infringe on individual liberties. The Pacific Legal Foundation will not stand for this gross violation of the Constitution. We are taking these governors to court, and we are proposing a law that would limit the time and the scope of their emergency orders. But we can't do it without your help. Donate today to help us protect individual liberties, respect the legislative process, while still keeping all Americans safe.
Thank you, Joe. Our next contestant is Maggie Horezempa of the John Locke Foundation in North Carolina.
What does it take for your team to rebound? Not in college basketball, but the face-off between COVID-19 versus North Carolina. As North Carolina reopens, we face a very different economic landscape. We can't change Governor Cooper's policy decisions that led to our COVID catastrophe, but we can make sure the ball is in the court of freedom and innovation. That's why the John Locke Foundation published our boldest pro-freedom policy guide yet, Carolina Rebound, our game plan to win the economic recovery. In 52 pages, Carolina Rebound gives clear policy play-by-plays focusing on fiscal, healthcare, education, and regulatory policies. Inconsistent reopenings and lack of transparency from Governor Cooper creates foul play, so I'm asking you to put on your John Locke jersey and help us make a slam dunk for freedom so that Carolina can rebound.
Thank you, Maggie. Please welcome up next Natalie Dudasicki from the Cato Institute.
Everyone, I'm Natalie Dudasicki. There is a future out there that we are too reluctant to imagine. We are blind to opportunity. Our most daunting problem is that we don't think big enough. We aren't bold enough. Sure, we've improved our lives on the margins. We ask Alexa what's on the grocery list. We travel across the country in a matter of hours. We 3D print organs, and we even get our burritos delivered via drone. But innovation doesn't stop there. With the reinvented Building Tomorrow podcast, we hope to tell the story of the future, one that's no longer constrained by the complexity of our regulatory past. We hope to interview entrepreneurs and technology tinkers, especially the ones who have failed because they're still on their quest to make the world a freer and more prosperous place. But we can't build tomorrow alone. We need your vision. Come take a step in the future with us. Support and subscribe to the Building Tomorrow podcast.
Next up, we'll hear from Skye Lawrence from the Charter Cities Institute.
The Industrial Revolution built this country, and it built the modern city because jobs and cities have always gone hand in hand. 75 million people are moving to city every single year, and they're not moving to the Bostons and the Londons and the New Yorks in droves. Rather, they're moving to cities in the global south, like Lagos and Lusaka. The problem is that these cities are not industrializing as quickly as the cities in the past, which is why we need charter cities, new cities with better laws that encourage free markets and job growth. They can fix these problems. They can lift millions by creating sustainable growth out of poverty. The Charter Cities Institute is the convening organization. We bring together the developers, the investors, the governments, everybody that are building cities on the ground today. And we are changing the conversation from a conventional incremental shift towards bold, new entrepreneurial cities. By joining us, you're voting for innovation, for new approaches to global problems. A donation for charter cities is a huge step towards an optimistic and peaceful future.
Thank you, Skye. Our final contestant today is Zachary Christensen from the Reason Foundation.
Have you ever written a check that you knew would bounce? That's what state and local governments are doing when they continue to underfund their public pensions. Nationally, pension debt has now exceeded $1.2 trillion, and what's worse, the cost of these programs continues to go up and up with no end in sight. If you think about it, governments aren't only writing a check they know will bounce, they're writing a blank check that they know will bounce. The Pension Integrity Project at Reason Foundation has helped develop a solution for this called automatic adjustments, which automatically change contributions or benefits depending on locked-in funding metrics. The best part about this is it takes the decision-making out of the hands of politicians, who have proven time and time again to lack the long-term vision to properly fund these plans. Are you tired of the government writing blank, bouncing checks? Contact Reason Foundation today, and we can help you find a pension solution.
Thanks, Zachary. What a great group of young leaders. The freedom movement's future is definitely bright. Okay, everyone, now it's time to cast your vote. Please vote by visiting the website you see here on the screen. You can also type that into your browser or your phone. Again, the website is www.pollev.com/LFFD20. Now, while you're taking a few minutes to vote, I wanted to bring up Atlas Network's CEO, Brad Lipps, to share with us a bit more about the legacy that John Blundell left behind and why we've chosen to have his name connected with this competition program. Brad?
Thanks very much, Lyall. That was a really great community that came together for our Leader Lab program, so it was fun to see some of those faces once again, and what great pitches they gave. So I'm curious who's going to emerge as the winner. And while you all are in that process of making your votes, I'm really happy to have a few minutes to tell you about the man whose name is attached to our elevator pitch competition, my late friend John Blundell. And in doing that, I will explain the very fancy waistcoat that I am wearing right now. Some of you who are regulars at our Liberty Forum in New York, you may have worried that one of the costs of this crazy year of 2020 is that you would miss out on seeing the waistcoat, but fear not, this is a tradition I was very much determined to keep. John Blundell was an excellent scholar, an inspiring leader, and a great friend who loved the freedom movement. He followed Anthony Fisher as the second head of Atlas Network, and then for many years he chaired the executive committee of our board of directors at the same time that he served as the general director of the Institute of Economic Affairs in London. The IEA in London, as many of you know, is really the granddaddy think tank to Atlas Network. It was the first organization founded by our eventual founder, Anthony Fisher. And the original general director, whom Anthony hired to run the IEA, was Lord Ralph Harris. Ralph Harris died in 2006, and at that time, his friends organized a memorial with a special dress code. Attendees were expected to wear a dapper English waistcoat along the lines of what you'll see in almost any photo you find of Ralph Harris. And one of Ralph's biggest fans was Manuel Musso Ayau, who founded the Instituto Francisco Marroquín in Guatemala. Now, Musso couldn't make it to London for the memorial event, so he sent this unique Guatemalan waistcoat to John Blundell so that Musso and UFM would be represented colorfully at Ralph's memorial. Now, after Musso died in 2010, John started to wear this at Atlas Network events with some regularity, calling this his fancy waistcoat. And he always took the opportunity to explain it. And in doing so, he'd really be telling the young people in the crowd about the history that they were adding to, about the IEA, founded in 1955, about UFM in Guatemala, which celebrates its 50th anniversary next year. And John died, it's hard to believe it's now a little more than 6 years ago. When John passed, his widow, Christine, said that John had asked that she give me this waistcoat. And I knew the moment that I first held it that John had a very clear intention, that he wanted me to wear it at Atlas Network's biggest annual event, so that as we're celebrating the next generation of the freedom movement and discussing new fronts in what John would call the war of ideas, we would also remember the people who built this movement, including Leonard Liggio, in whose name we hold an annual lecture program given yesterday by the philosopher David Schmitz, and including the three men whose memories are conjured up by my very fancy waistcoat, Ralph Harris, Musso Ayau, and John Blundell. And telling this story has really become my favorite part of Liberty Forum each year, because we get to connect our movement's legendary past to those who are providing its very bright future, the people that were in this elevator pitch competition, and to all those who are honing their skills through the many training offerings that we offer through our Atlas Network Academy. Now, for a word on developments within the Academy, I'm going to pass the microphone back to Atlas Network Chief Operating Officer Lyall Swim.
Thank you, Brad, for that brief history of our competition's namesake, and we look forward to honoring that legacy and his name for years to come. Now, while we're waiting for the votes to come in, and I promise we'll get to these results faster than the presidential election votes have come in, so don't worry, we'll get to it. I want to use this time to announce some very exciting news that we have in terms of some major changes and improvements for our Atlas Leadership Academy and its programs. For the last 10 years, we've had thousands of people participate in courses, webinars, workshops, and summits through the Atlas Leadership Academy. And we are extremely proud of the impact of these programs and those who have contributed to them. Beginning nearly 3 years ago, when I began at Atlas Network as the Director of Training, and now under the leadership of Dr. Patty Holbein, we have worked to expand and enhance our coach programs. And with that, it gives me great pleasure to announce that as of today, our Atlas Leadership Academy is now officially the Atlas Network Academy. This name change reflects an important reality of what the Academy has become over the last 10 years and what we will continue to develop to increase the philosophical, technical, and leadership capacity of our movement. Along with our name change, our rebrand, and lots of new courses, we have retired the old model of a general graduation degree that we'd give, the typical 12 credits that we all have come to learn and know. We have retired that, and in its place, we are launching a competency-based certification program that is more rigorous and substantive for the professional development of our movement. As you work your way through our new academy, you will be able to earn 2 different levels of certifications in think tank foundations, marketing and communications, fundraising, leadership, and many more. The basic certification track includes multiple online courses and webinars. At the master's certification level, participants must meet specific requirements and complete in-person multi-day workshops that will help ensure that expertise and capability are deeply learned and applied. All of our new courses and certifications pathways are now housed on a new, easy-to-use website that you can see up here. It looks tremendous. So excited for this. This will be your one-stop shop for everything professional development at Atlas Network. Here you can keep track of your progress, find new content, and earn badges for your work. So after this, I encourage you to visit our new website that has been updated to reflect these changes at atlasnetwork.org. Register for your account and engage with us at our new and improved Atlas Leadership Academy. I want to give an especial thank you to the training team, Patty Holbein, Tarun Vatz, Lindy Arsenault, Alex Cordell, and Sam Druzbick for all of their hard work over the last several months to launch this new site and to develop these new and exciting certifications. I can feel the freedom movement is getting smarter and more capable by the minute. All right, now, the votes are in and counted. Let's find out who the winners are. Coming in third place and receiving a $500 grant for their organization is Graeme Taylor from the Texas Public Policy Foundation. Congratulations, Graeme. Our runner-up and the winner of a $1,000 grant prize for this year's John Blundell Elevator Pitch competition is Devin Scanlon from the Georgia Public Policy Foundation. And for the big moment and the drum roll, our winner of the 2020 John Blundell Elevator Pitch competition and the recipient of the $1,500 prize is Natalie Dudasicki of the Cato Institute. Congratulations to all three of our winners. Thank you for joining us today for the John Blundell Elevator Pitch competition. We are going to take a quick break, and we will be back with you soon for a pair of wonderful breakout sessions, Ask the Funder and Trade and the Global Economy during COVID-19. Enjoy the rest of the forum.